Good evening, everyone. I am Millie, and I am happy to be here with you all this evening. I want to first formally welcome you all here. I know I feel like everything that's possibly going on in the world right now is happening. So I want to thank you all for showing up and being here tonight. And as we get to actually talk about reflections and how to reflect, and I'm actually going to do a reflection or actually share my reflections from the school year in a very, very transparent way because I want to encourage you to do the same thing. So after you finish watching this video, I put a link in here for the questions that I asked myself for the reflection. It's my reflection guide. So you all can follow along with that as well. But I want y'all to put in the comments how you all are doing. How is everybody doing? I am honestly a little so-so. I took last week for some reflection, just to some self care, even though I was still peeping at the curriculum and trying to figure things out for work. But I did take some downtime last week just to gather myself and get my mind in the right place so I can start thinking about the new year and reflecting on the new year and preparing for the new year. But I want to once again, I see people are jumping on, so I want to welcome here today. I want you all to, of course, if you all, I know some of you all are maybe still in school. I know this is going on I don't even remember anymore. We got to school May 22nd, so I think this may be going on my third week. I'm thinking out of school, maybe. I think I just finished up my second week, so I'm going into my third week. So I want you all to, if you all are not out of school, I'm sorry. I hope you all be out soon. But for those who are out of school, I want you all to still share your wins for the week, how you all are doing. And I just once again want to welcome you all to today's show or episode or however you all want to call it. So once again, if you haven't, I sent out a couple of emails, posted a few things on my blog, on my Facebook page about where I stand. If it's not obvious, I'm a Black American, and so of course I'm going to believe that Black Lives Matter. And if you are a teacher, I know we all have our own way of speaking out. And so I want to encourage you to speak out in however way that you speak out. So I want to encourage you to do that. I want you, if you have students of color, most of us do, I do. So check on them, reach out to them, see how they're doing. I also link to some resources in the email that you can check out as well. But I really want you to encourage you to do that. Read those resources, check in on your students, whatever you all need to do, definitely do that for them right now. And with the events that are happening in our country right now, it really has led me to be more reflective about my own teaching practices. And that was a really big thing that I was doing last week, is reflecting on my teaching practices and thinking about what I can do to make sure that even if when I'm teaching, I'm already very mindful about it, but how I can be even more intentional about making sure that my students see themselves in the curriculum, that my students see themselves in the books that they read, that my students completely understand what's happening, bringing in articles, all of that. How can I do that this school year? So that is going to be on the forefront of my mind. So what I want you all to do, like I said, I have a link in here. And we are here today. We're going to be talking about why it's so important that at this point of the school year that you start reflecting to prepare for the next school year. At the end of the school year, I always take time to reflect. I usually kind of start doing it around testing time as well. When I'm looking at the students taking their assessment, and I'm like, ooh, maybe I should have did that a little differently. So if you haven't already, I want to encourage you to take the time to reflect for the school year. This is really important because it helps you adjust your instruction for next school year. It guides your planning for next school year. And I just cannot tell you enough how important it is. I know for me, I know many times in the past I've had it really bad about rushing into planning for the next school year without taking the time to reflect. I can remember during my first school year, my teacher mentor, she always encouraged me. She was like, "Hi, Miss Sullivan, if you're watching." But she always encouraged me to reflect. And sometimes that was really difficult for me because I was really caught up in wanting to just move forward. I was like, okay, I just want to move forward. I just want to move forward with the year. I want to put this year behind me. I just want to move forward. And I realized that without me moving forward, I didn't have a plan of action. And I didn't have a plan of action because I didn't take the time to reflect and adjust what needed to be adjusted. Now, in our Insiders Club, which is for people who've joined my course, the ESL Teacher Master Plan, I encourage teachers to reflect after every lesson. If you can, after every lesson, just take a moment and reflect at the end of the day. It's just like 5 minutes. Really quick, really easy to do. It's funny we ask the students to do that, right? When we give an exit ticket, it's kind of like a form of reflection. But are we reflecting as educators, and are we adjusting when we do the reflection? So what I'm doing is I actually have right here my reflections for the school year. I am going to go through, read them to you all, share out with you all, just me being completely transparent, with me being raw with you all, how my school year went. And so I want you to sit down when you have the opportunity, 10, 15 minutes, just take a moment and reflect. Just do it. Like, I cannot tell you how it will transform your teaching practice. And so here are my personal reflections for the school year. If you want these questions, there's a free download, the free reflection worksheet. You can just download that worksheet and just work on it at your earliest convenience. Take some time tomorrow morning to do it. Whenever it's convenient, just block out some time and to do that. So the first question that I asked myself is, what was the highlight of my school year? And the highlight of my school year was finally having that moment where I connected with my students. This year, it was particularly difficult for me to do that because the first few weeks of school, I was on FMLA. So when I came in, it was like I felt the need to just hit the ground running. Like, like, okay, I got to do this. I have this lesson to do. I got to catch up with this because I was coming in feeling like I was behind when that really wasn't the case. And so the students this year really did not have their guard up. They were such a great group of kids. But I realized that I just needed to take some more time with them to nurture the relationship. Whereas in the past, I was there at the beginning of the school year. I was kind of meeting with them at lunch, talking with them at lunch. I didn't have that cushion this school year because I felt that need to just like come in, jump in, start teaching. And this really caused, if I'm being honest with you, with some really intense moments between me and them at the beginning of the school year because they didn't know really who I was, and I really wasn't taking the time like I should have and like I should have in the past to really get to understand who they were. And so it took longer than I thought it would for me to build those relationships with them. And we really finally had that moment. We went to the National Civil Rights Museum, and it was like, we finally connected and we had such a beautiful moment. And when I can tell you, when I cannot stress enough, I was so proud of them. They asked such thoughtful questions. And speaking of that, I'm just it was such a beautiful moment. They were like, Miss Williams, why was this happening? They were, of course, well behaved and mannerable. And in that moment, they were like, Miss Williams, these are some of the struggles that maybe your parents had and your grandparents had. And a lot of my students, I have two of them from Venezuela, and they were making just really deep connections about things that were happening in Venezuela. And we were having conversations, and some of our students have African ancestry, and they were talking about that. And so having that connection with them in that moment, we went to the mall afterwards, ate lunch at the mall. I sat down and talked to them, And I am telling you, it's just something really powerful about going on a field trip. I mean, it really connects you with other students. Oh my goodness, Miss Miller, she's like my best friend at work. And she went on a field trip with us, and it was such a good field trip, you all. It was just amazing field trips. I cannot tell you all enough. Take a field trip with your students. And if that was my highlight, and knowing that that was a really strong way to build a connection with my students at the beginning of next school year, whether we are virtually learning, whether we're doing in person learning, one of the things that I'm going to do is in those first few weeks, go on a field trip. I'm going to take them on a field trip. I don't care if the field trip is to the park. I don't care if it's to the baseball field. We're going to do some type of team building experience. So that is one thing that I'm going to plan on doing. And if I had to go back, if this is me thinking aloud, this is me adjusting, this is me being transparent, I would definitely have taken that time at the beginning of the school year to go on a field trip, to really take time to nurture those relationships and not feel like I had to be in such a rush to jump into the curriculum. And so that is one takeaway from the year. That is one of my highlights for the school year. Now, the second question in the worksheet, and Deanna said, yes, it's already, thank you. I cannot wait to hear some of your reflections if you all want to share those. Now, one of the second questions that I asked myself is, what were some challenges during the school year? And how would I address those challenges if they occur next school year? So I always try to think about, okay, what were some things that really challenged me? And if it happens again, how am I going to address it? Because more than likely it may pop up again and I want to be prepared for it. Now, one of the challenges that happened for me this school year was striking a balance, right, between the curriculum and doing right by my students. And what I mean by that is that the curriculum that we use this school year really had to be scaffolded, it had to be modified for my ELLs, and I at the same time I want to still maintain rigor, right? I still want it to be difficult and challenging for them. And I really got caught up in, like I said a moment ago, I was on FMLA. And so when I got back, I really just was like, oh my gosh, I'm behind. Like I was just, in actuality, I was not behind, but I felt like I was behind. And so I was putting that pressure on the students and on myself when I didn't need to do that. And so I just got really wrapped up in it, and I wasn't as intentional as I was in my previous school year. And so, one of the things that I'm going to be doing for this school year that's going to be at the top of my radar is making sure that I have my long range plans already planned out. I have my daily lesson plans for that first quarter already planned out. Because one thing that I was so focused on was my classroom management plan. And this is something else that I teach in my program, the ESL Teacher Master Plan, is that you do need a solid classroom management plan. But I was so hyper focused on the classroom management plan that I didn't give enough equal attention to my long range curriculum and my daily lesson plan. So, this school year, as I'm prepping and preparing, I'm going to make sure that I am giving enough equal attention to each parts, setting up my classroom management plan for next school year, how that's going to look like for me virtually, if I have to do it virtually, because even if you are sitting in front of this computer, you still need some structure. You still are going to need a classroom management plan, whether you're in the classroom or whether you're doing it on the computer. And I'm also going to make sure that I am looking at my curriculum and planning out my long range plan to make sure that I'm including all of the 4 domains of language, to make sure that I'm including language objectives, content objectives, all of that into my daily lesson plans. That's something actually that I'm going to start doing this week. And the good thing is I kind of did virtual teaching at the end of the school year. So I kind of have an idea of how I'm going to manage my classroom if I have to do it again next school year. So this is one thing that I am keeping in mind. And so Mia said she was my challenges were being able to work on writing more with my students trying to make a condensed lesson within 30 minutes and not having a yearly plan with weekly lesson plans completed and working at a new school. Yeah, you had a lot going on. And so, yeah, and it's really helpful is that you're taking this time to reflect now. And then now I heard you say how you're going to adjust and how you're going to fix it. Because the way to fix it is you can go ahead and get your yearly plan ready. You can all go ahead and get those weekly lesson plans ready. Even if you just do 2 or 3 weeks of lesson plans, you will be ahead. And you already kind of have those relationships already built with the people at your school already. So that are some things that you can do. Like you already kind of formulating a plan, which is great. And kind of the same thing for me, like very similar, right? We both want to make sure that we get that long range plan done because that makes it so much easier. And this is one thing I teach in the program as well. It makes it so much easier if you already have everything mapped out. Like if I already know what I'm going to do for the month of January and the month of February, then if I do have to go to teacher pay teacher, or if I do have to go to find something on the website, I already know specifically what I'm looking for. And I'm not running around in circles trying to find materials. So that's really, really important. Now, the third thing that I ask myself is, what were my lessons student centered? Now, my lessons throughout the school year were mostly student centered. Now, if I'm reflecting once again and I'm being completely transparent, there is a lot more that I can do this upcoming school year, especially keeping at the front of my mind that we may be out for COVID and not know what's going on with that. There's definitely some things that I know I need to be doing to make sure that I'm going to be more intentional and make sure that my lessons are going to be student centered for the school year. Now, one of the things that last school year, for example, the curriculum had us do a lot of read alouds with the kids. And so they were like, okay, read this section aloud to them. And one of the ways that I can make that student centered is and prepare ahead of time is to go ahead through the text and go ahead and read aloud the text. Just record myself reading aloud. Now, if I'm in the classroom next year, I can still use that read aloud. I can say, hey, I need you to go to the computer and listen to the read aloud. Or if I'm doing virtual learning, I can put a link to myself reading that text aloud with some text dependent questions with it. So that's how me still thinking, okay, how can I transform my lessons to still make sure that they are very student centered? So be thinking about those things for the upcoming school year. Now, the fourth thing that I ask myself is, what is one thing that you learned this school year that is going to guide your instruction for next school year? And I can say the biggest thing that I learned this school year is to be flexible. Now, I love planning. Like if I can plan out every minute of the day, I probably would. And so I love planning. I love knowing what I'm going to be doing. I like structured environments. That's just me. I love that. I know some people, I don't know if Miss Miller's still on here. She's maybe the opposite, right? So for me, if I had to do one takeaway, one thing that I'm going to help me learn or guide my instructions for next school year is to be flexible. That is really important. I'm going to have to be flexible with the technology. I'm going to have to be flexible with my students. I'm going to have to be flexible with myself. And so I am going to make sure that my lessons are flexible, meaning that they can go in between virtual learning and in-person learning. I'm going to make sure that I have my mindset in the right place to be flexible. And if something that happens at the spur of the moment, I'm not, acting like that, like I told you all a couple of weeks ago. So that is going to be at the forefront of my mind is being flexible, and I struggle with that sometimes. And I know as ESL teachers, like you said, we like for me is like I'm like, oh, you all changing this on the last minute for me. But as teachers, that's one of our, I say, superpowers is being flexible, especially in middle school. We have a lot of stuff going on in middle school as well. Miss Miller, I cannot believe you are not prepared. I feel like you're always prepared, and you always have such a structured environment in your own way. And yes, I would love to know, how were your lessons student centered? Like, what were some things that you did to make your lessons student centered? Definitely share those. And if you're just joining us, you're like student centered. It means that the students, the core of the lesson is them. I mean, I'm not up there talking the whole time. And that's one thing if I'm just reflecting within a reflection. I had to check myself on a couple of times. I would be like, wait a minute. And I would say this aloud to them, and they would just be looking at me like, are you talking to yourself? I would say, wait a minute, I'm talking too much in this lesson. Let me take a step back and let you all do the work because I feel like I'm carrying the load. And I would say this aloud to my students, and they'll be like, okay, okay. So for the upcoming school year, I'm going to make sure I am definitely going to be flexible, work with my students on that, and being open to change. Now, what I want you all to do, and I'm just going to break down what I did. I want to first encourage you, if you haven't already. I've heard some people, Miss Miller said that she wants to be more prepared. Deanna said that she wants to make sure she's more prepared. I keep hearing prepare a lot as a theme. And this is the perfect time to get prepared. You can just take 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, and just do little things to help you prepare for the school year. And I want you, before you start getting prepared, take a moment to reflect. 15 to 30 minutes. You can download those 4 questions. Take a moment to reflect on the school year and be honest and be raw about what really happened. What were your areas of growth? What were some things that you were proud of that you want to replicate? That was another thing for me as well. I thought about like last school year, I did a really good job with my writing. I think somebody mentioned something about writing, but I did a really good job about the students practicing writing. But for some random reason this school year, I did not do that same strategy. I don't know why. And then at the end of the school year, when we were practicing for WIDA, like I felt like my kids were, I was like, wait a minute. And I thought about it. Oh, that was the difference. I was very intentional about practicing writing last school year. But this year, once again, I was really hyper focused on that curriculum. So this upcoming school year, you may have seen it in my Teacher Pay Teacher store, I'm going to use that paragraph builder every week with them, every single week, and have them practice their writing and be very, very intentional about that as well. So be thinking about that and use those questions to guide you, to help you with your reflection. You can write those questions down, write on the sheet. If you want to say them in a recorder, whatever works for you. I really want to encourage you to write them down, though, because it's just something about writing them down. It kind of helps you formulate this plan. And then once you reflect it, then start creating an action plan. You've seen some people starting to do it already, right? Creating a long range plan, building relationships. You've heard me say, okay, you know what? My action plan for the school year is to, at the beginning, make sure that I'm super intentional about building relationships with my students at the beginning of the school year. And I'm also going to make sure that I am taking the time with my long range plan to include those 4 domains of language. Now, that is a good question. Deanna asks, do you work on your 4 domains on different days or daily? Not daily. So it looked like for me, for example, on maybe Monday, we may do, if I'm being really intentional, like reading and listening. And then the next day, since they have that input, right, and then they can give me some output. So the next day, we may do a speaking activity. Then the next day after that, do a writing activity. But if you really think about it, you may still be hitting those 4 domains all during the day, all during your lesson. But if I'm being super intentional about it, then I have to plan it out all throughout the week. Now you can possibly hit them on daily. I don't put that much pressure on myself if I'm doing it daily. Like I want to make sure on certain days they need input. They may have to take time to build background knowledge. We have to take time to read. We have to take time to do a listening activity. And then the next day they may, and you can still do things within your lesson. So even if they're reading, if you're doing an input activity where they're reading and listening, you can still have your students say, okay, can you turn and talk? Right? That's hitting on the domain of speaking. Okay. So I want you all to turn and talk about what you just read. So that's the speaking. And then at the end of the lesson, for maybe an exit ticket, you can say, okay, I want you all to write a quick summary about what you all learned today. So you're still hitting on those domains. So you're still going to be doing it throughout your lesson. And anyways, So, but if I'm thinking about like specific speaking activities for like Flipgrid, or if I'm doing like my quick writes, those may be spread throughout the week. You know what else? I have not really done anything with dictation. Um I haven't done anything. The closest I've done with that is, if I'm thinking, if we're thinking on the same lines, is note taking. And what I would do is like and Miss Finney, well, she's listening. Hey, Miss Finney, because it's on my personal page too. What she would do is she would actually have Brain Pop. I don't know if you all have Brain Pop. It is such an amazing tool. And then what she would do is she would have like a note sheet, and the students would then fill in like blanks with the note. It was really a cool activity. I need to do that more often as well. But that would be the closest thing that I would do to that. And also, yeah, I love turn and talk. And I need to do that more often as well, and make sure the turn and talk is more intentional. And one of the ways that I, just me reflecting with you all right now, one way to do that is maybe include some sentence frames. Maybe, like, and not just like varying levels of sentence frames for them to do the turn and talk to kind of elevate. Because I'm pretty sure you all are probably in these same groups too, where people are getting their WIDA scores back and they're saying, oh, my students didn't do too well on the speaking. And so, me being intentional for next school year, that is a way that I can think about that I can improve on them speaking, is making sure that I'm doing those sentence frame as well. Nikki said, how do you feel like you're going to continue students in their learning if you're going to continue remote learning in the fall? That is really a good question. And one of the ways, Nikki, and we can definitely talk about this too, is that I'm going to do something called hyperdocs. That would be really cool for art, by the way. If you all have not heard of hyperdocs, they're like a modern version of a web quest. So that is one way that I'm going to keep it student centered, is do hyperdocs. I'm also going to do playlists. So a playlist is a activity, and I wish I had some I could pull up with you, but it's like basically like I give them a list of activities that they need to do for the week, and then they go through and do them. And on those activities are going to be things like, okay, I need you all to go into this meeting room, and I want you to collaborate with your teammates. So it's going to be things like that. Or yeah, yeah. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be working on. That's why I've been going to that those Microsoft PDs, because a lot of teachers in there have been talking about digital escape rooms. So that's one of the ways that I'm going to do it as well. So those are going to be the two biggest things. Like, I don't want to overwhelm the kids, so I'm going to do digital escape rooms and playlists. So those are the two things that I'm going to do to keep it student centered. And then in Microsoft Teams, like I said, they have breakdowns of different channels. And so I'm going to have the students maybe go to a certain channel and collaborate. I also saw somebody in there as well, have like they call office hours during the week. So depending on how our school district lets us do the virtual learning, if we have virtual learning, I may not have direct instruction every single day, if depending if I have that flexibility. So what I mean by that is maybe like on Monday I may have a direct instruction, and then on Tuesday I may have the students work like in collaborative groups, and then on Wednesday I may have like office hours where I'm just there and they can come in and ask me questions, but they're going to go off and still work with their groups. And then maybe Thursday maybe have direct instruction, and Friday, and kind of rotate that way. So that's how I'm planning on doing it. I just have to wait and see what kind of flexibility we'll have with the school district, and how the plans are set forth with that. I'm hoping I'm hoping we have some type of flexibility. So what I want to encourage you all to do, if you have not already, I want you to find a quiet place. And thank you to everybody who's been reflecting with me live. But I want you to find a quiet place and reflect about how you are going to prepare for the next school year. Think about some of the highlights and what you are going to do as well. And it's hard, right? I mean, like, we don't really know what is going to be going on. But there's still some ways that you're going to prepare. And next week, I'm going to share that with you all. Is that, look, even though we don't know what's going on, I'm going to share with you all some strategies next week, how you still can prepare for the upcoming school year, even though we have no clue about what's happening. I know a lot of us are in the same situation. no clue about what we're going to be doing, but I'm still going to share with you all some strategies on how we can prepare. And I want you to do those 4 reflection questions and create a simple action plan. I want to say this, I love Nearpod. Nearpod is amazing. And what I want to encourage you to do, go ahead and start asking your admin team, is it okay for them to purchase it for you? Like, ask them, can you all get this for us? I know they have a free version, but go ahead and ask. Like, just say, hey, this is a great tool for my ELLs, can I use it? I'm already thinking about some ways that I can use the money that is going to be budgeted out for, we get yearly like buddy for like supplies. And so I'm thinking instead of me, oh, you got next time is I want you to ask your admin first before you purchase it. But so one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to see what tools that I really want. I already purchased Brain Pop, so I think I have that, and then I may get Nearpod if my school doesn't purchase it. I'm really gonna beg and see if they can, if they can purchase it. So once again, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to know what is your favorite way to reflect. And I want you to share those in the comments if you all want to. So definitely drop those in the comments if you all want to share those. So once again, I want to thank you all for being here and being supportive. You all are fantastic. I want to let y'all know that I will see you all next week. Yes, I love Brain Pop ELL. If you all can get Brain Pop ELL. I even like Brain Pop Junior. I know we have some elementary teachers here and they're like, Brain Pop Junior for middle school? But they have some really good topics on Brain Pop Junior that my middle schoolers still need. So I still use Brain Pop Junior for middle school. So this year I'm thinking about getting Brain Pop Junior and just doing the regular Brain Pop. I think it'll be a good balance between the two of them. But yeah, I would definitely love to know what tools you are using. What's your favorite way to reflect? And once again, I want to thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you all next week. Bye.